Hi there, I'm Lillian, and thank you for joining me at Soulful Thinkings. This is the second part video on a series on waiting. There's 3 videos, and I'm just going to jump right into the second video on stagnation. Now, in the first video on waiting, we talked about how waiting can often produce a feeling of resistance and how to get to the place where we can honestly ask ourselves, what can I do? What can I do about this situation? So today we're going to talk about how in times of waiting we can often feel this feeling of stagnation. Oh, get that out of here. I keep my clothing on this couch. Anyhow, so in times of waiting we can often feel this feeling of stagnation. We're waiting on external factors to move, for things to change, for people to step up and do what they're supposed to do, and it can just create this lack of movement. And not only is there a lack of movement, but the word stagnation makes me think of a pond, and I have a pond on my property, and it's just like a dugout, maybe is what it's called. And when the snow melts in the spring, it goes into the pond and it fills up, and then often in the spring or in the fall, it's evaporated, and there's no water that flows in and there's no water that flows out. This is a stagnant pond. It's not fresh water. I mean, it serves its purpose. There's ducks and whatever, and they enjoy it, you know, but there's not a fresh flow of water to this pond. And that's what the word stagnant makes me think of. There's a lack of flow, and it's not fresh, it's not new. So in waiting, when we're waiting on external factors, we can often feel this sense of stagnation. We want to create movement, we want there to be a flow. And when we can identify what we can do to create a flow, then we know what to do. Sometimes we have a clear idea right away how to do it, but then the difficulty we often encounter here is that we don't want to do it. We know what needs to happen, but there's something inside of us that just doesn't want to do it. And often we kind of tiptoe around that feeling. We don't like to clarify it. We just have this general uneasiness or vague discomfort within ourselves. We just know, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to go there. And it's often because we feel like we're not going to measure up. We feel like we're going to fall short. We're going to be insufficient. We have some kind of fear, and instead of facing it head on and examining it, we just kind of let it be a general cloud of uneasiness that is around us, and we try to avoid stirring up trouble. It's really important to be able to ask ourselves, why don't I want to do this? I'm in this time of waiting. I want things to change. I'm feeling a stagnation. I can see the movement that needs to happen. I might even know how to do it. I don't want to do it. Why don't I want to do it? It's really important to be able to honestly ask ourselves this question and honestly answer this question, to be able to identify our feelings and fears that are blocking the forward movement that's necessary, even if that forward movement doesn't necessarily affect the external factors of our waiting, but it changes the internal factors of our waiting. And this waiting can become a situation where we can be at peace and we can be grounded, even though everything in the outside world isn't how we want it to be yet. When we can identify our fears and our feelings that are overwhelming to us in these situations, often this alone brings clarity. Often the things that we're fearing, they feel bigger than they really are when we can look at it objectively. And you know, we have a tendency to dismiss our feelings, dismiss these things that block us from movement. We feel silly, or we feel like we're going to look incompetent, or maybe we're afraid we're going to discover that we really are incompetent in this area, you know. Which even that, there's all things. For all of us, there's areas where we do fall short, where we don't have the skills, or we don't have the knowledge, or whatever it is. But it's okay. It's all right. And actually, it's important to be able to identify these things about ourselves, and to be gracious. And then, you know, we have room to grow if we want, and if we're not interested, then we leave it alone. But just to be able to identify the things that cause us to feel overwhelmed, the things that we don't want to face, that alone will bring clarity, and oftentimes it will create the movement needed to bring comfort in this time of waiting. Whether or not it actually brings movement forward or not, the goal is to to get into our flow and to feel better when we're waiting. All right, I hope this has been helpful to you. Please join me for the third and final video. Thanks so much.